thirsty too. What do you want, Dad?
Huh?
What do you want to drink?
I think over on my table is some Gatorade.
Okay.
One ounce long.
Yes.
The
it's
commercial.
funny.
Trying to get out of the damn van.
We're now entering phase 2 of the interview when Dad, Gerald, or Jerry, as he likes to be called, met Nancy. And Sloan and I are going to sit off to the side and we are going to ask some questions. And
Here
we'll
we go.
Yes, here we go.
Away
But
we go.
obviously the first question would be, where and how did you meet?
You gonna tell them?
I want to hear what you have to say, not correct it.
Not fair. Not fair. At Porch Audi North.
In July of 1972.
Okay. Go
I-
ahead.
I needed a new car because I was driving a 61 Biscayne Chevy that had holes
In the
so you could see the
floorboards.
floor, the ground. It was about time. So this guy named Tom Higgins, which is my maiden name, but he wasn't related, decided to take me to the Audi store. And I picked out, what year was that Audi?
1970.
And I drove it, and everybody told me it was a wonderful car, and so I bought it. And I had
I didn't tell you that.
no. And when I went to pick it up, let me see, who sold it to me? Barbie sold it to
Barbie
me.
sold it to you.
But Mimi delivered it to me. So when she saw my address, you know who Mimi is, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
She goes, oh, one of our salesmen lives right there. And I said, oh, what's his name? She says, Jerry Swintek. So I stood up in my very tight top and very short shorts and goes, oh, Jerry Swintek, where are you? And that's how we met. And then I had to go to his apartment every night because I had so many problems with that stupid car. Go ahead.
No, you used me
I
to
got
get your
news.
car fixed.
Well, you're a good listener.
Then I'd
Yeah,
have,
but the part with the short shorts that,
Yeah.
that wasn't using at all.
No,
There was
no,
persuasion going on.
no, not at all.
No.
then I'd go to
It
Jim,
didn't bother Mimi.
then I'd go to Jim Prater and say, you know, Jim, you know that car was a piece of shit. You really need to fix it for that poor gal. So he'd break down and have her bring it in and get it fixed. The shop, it was, I forget how many thousand, but it had turned 100,000. And nobody knew it. But
Okay, but that explains how you met. Now, how did you start? How did you come to become a couple, or how did you?
we lived
Approach-
right next door to each other.
Well-
in that same
In the-
greenhouse.
Right.
400 feet away.
Yeah, we both lived in those greenhouses.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. I lived in this building right here, and she lived in that building over here that faced the next street.
Yeah.
I was on Willow
Willow.
Way Circle.
Yeah, me too.
We were
Wow.
both on Willow Way Circle.
We had
Okay.
identical apartments.
Well, right, but which is my next question: who approached who about going on a date, or was it just mutual visits to the apartment? What kind of
I
hooked the
think
two
we
of you
met
up?
out in the parking lot now and then.
No, I came over to your house to bitch about that car.
Yeah.
And then I'd bitch about everything else.
Okay.
And you listened.
Then I
And
asked-
thought that was pretty neat.
Then I asked you to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Some
We
stupid...
went and had dinner someplace.
No, we didn't. We went
No?
to some stupid bar on Henderson.
We did?
Yeah, and had some drinks.
Oh. Okay.
There were a few stupid bars on Henderson back then.
right.
I was old enough to remember that. So, how many years did you date before you decided to marry?
July of 72 to October of 75.
Yeah, that's when he decided to marry me.
Now, 3 years?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that you would, because I know you weren't both living anywhere near there anymore, but you actually got married in the
Greenhouse,
at where the greenhouse had a
Party
mutual party
party
area,
building. Yeah.
and
And
weren't you married by a relative?
No.
No.
I thought you.
We're
Father
married
Jack.
by the mayor of Upper Arlington.
Oh,
And
okay.
Father Jack said a prayer.
Father Jack, her
Okay.
cousin, said a
Right.
prayer.
Okay.
Because he shouldn't have been at that civil wedding. He
Oh.
said, I'll come and say a prayer, but don't tell anybody I did.
So you were on the cusp of marriage evolution at the time when everything was changing.
What's that?
Father
Well,
Jack
in order to
couldn't-
get
No,
married, we had to go talk to the Archbishop's assistant in Cincinnati.
and since
Per my dad.
her dad
Yes,
went to school
right.
with this archbishop, and Papa Joe wanted to go see if I was eligible for an annulment. You know, and I was married to your mom for 15 years, and you know, the archbishop kind of hemmed and hawed, like if I'd offered him $5,000, I probably would have been eligible. But I didn't offer him $5,000, and we told Papa Joe that I wasn't eligible, and Papa Joe, I just decided I was okay.
Well, the Archbishop, his buddy said it's okay, so therefore, oh, good.
Yeah.
And my dad really liked Jerry when he met him. He'd ask Jerry for advice. That was not my dad. Usually my dad would like to get in an argument with you. But, you know, he really liked Jerry. And then he found out he was divorced and wouldn't talk to him. And as soon as the Archbishop's assistant said it's okay for them to marry, but they can't get married in the
They
church,
can't get married in the church.
Jerry was his buddy again.
So, Joe was happy,
Yeah,
and Nancy was happy. Papa Joe was happy.
right.
No, and that was kind of what I was getting at in asking the question, because that was at the time period when things were starting to modernize a little bit, and everything wasn't done strictly by the Catholic Church, and so that was a purpose for that. And I'll edit these little commentaries.
Good.
But anyway,
Nancy got real pushy there.
I asked him for a
toward
couple of years. He kept
19
saying, I'm not ready.
1975, and she said, you know, well, think about it. You know, if you can't think any more about it, I'll just start dating other guys. And then I started thinking about it when I was peddling ambulances. You know, I'm over there all by myself in Pennsylvania all week long. And what was the name of the book?
Creative Aggression. I think it's up there. It's a red book.
Creative Aggression. It was a paperback, and I wrote. I don't know where I picked it up at the airport or something. I read it and I said, you know, this kind of sounds like me. This book, Creative Aggression. So I came home that weekend and went over to her place, and I walked in and I threw it on the couch and I said, read this. If you can handle this, I guess we can get married.
Isn't that romantic?
Real romantic proposal.
Yeah.
But she said yes. And here we are 37 years later.
What were your goals at that time when you were finally married? What goals did you have? Or, I mean,
To stick together.
Well, that's something we talked about. You know, I
Spending time with you
wasn't
guys.
ready for a third or a fourth or a fifth. That I wanted somebody that, you know, well, we could work things out and stick together and keep it together.
yeah.
And she kind of felt the same way. She'd never been married before, but she figured once was enough.
True.
Very good.
So,
So you remained in Columbus and worked for the ambulance company, and you worked for, I believe it was a hospital just south of
Up on
downtown.
the hill.
I started out at Children's Services.
Oh, okay.
But when we got married, you were working at COPH.
Then I went to Central Ohio Psychiatric.
Yeah. The big
Right.
place up on the hill. On
Right.
West
We were
Broad
there
Street.
when I got married.
Yeah.
We got married. Not I got married.
And then you had a really good year at Horton Ambulance, and an opportunity came up
Yeah.
to move to Athens, Ohio, and start something completely scary and new. And can you tell us a little bit about how both of you felt about that?
I thought he could go down there and get it started and I'd come later. He said, wrong.
But then you found,
Yeah, I got the job as director of social
Social
work department down there. So.
yeah. But that was, as we discussed at length before we did this. Well, I guess how it got started is I got you the Green Goddess from Paul Rates.
Was that her? Who'd you got her from? I didn't know that.
Yeah, her green VW Scirocco that she had.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, I came home one night, pushed the garage door open. I was getting the flu, and I went, "That son of a bitch rental. We had a duplex. She parked in my spot." And then I noticed there was a big red ribbon on it.
It was Christmas time.
Oh,
It
how
was
neat.
December.
So you got a
So-
car, nice.
Yeah. So I was, bought it from Paul Rates. He was in Athens, and so I got to talking to him, and he was talking about the Datsun people had come to see him and needed a Datsun dealer in Athens, and ever since 6 of before, all been a car guy forever and ever. And when I worked for Volkswagen, I said, God, it'd really be fun to be a car dealer. So she and I sat down and talked and talked and talked. And she said, well, kiddo, if that's what you want to do, I guess we'll do it. And we signed up, and away we went. And then Jimmy Carter came along, and away we went the other way.
We made it for 5 years, though.
Yeah, we did. Well, we started out really good, doing good things, and the interest rates just kept going up and up and up and up. And
Yeah,
up
but then
and
we
up.
like the American car
Yeah,
dealership, and
that was a mistake.
things went down and down and down and down.
Well, and the other thing is, like we can remember your commercial reel where you're talking about the low 12.9%. And this is the new low.
Yeah,
It was down from
Was a
14.
special.
It was down from 14.9, I think.
No, it was 15.
15.9.
Yeah. It was
But
a special rate that Datsun offered, But we went in at, our floor plan interest was 9%. All the cars we bought from Datsun, the bank had the titles, and we'd pay them 9% whenever we sold it. If it was 1 month, we paid 1 month's worth of interest, which was at that time was 50 or 75 or $100. And it ended up at 22.5%. It was almost triple of where we started.
Look at him.
It was almost triple of where we started, so it got so damn difficult to, and people weren't buying cars because the interest rate was so damn high. And, it just, dealers failed left and right around the country. And the survivors were the guys that had been in business for
years
20,
and
30
years.
years.
And they owned all their floor
Well,
plan.
and they didn't have to borrow money from the bank to buy cars from the factory. They had money in the bank to pay for the cars when they were delivered, so
Uh-huh.
they didn't have any floor plan interest, and, you know, it was a whole different ballgame.
What was the interest rate on our house? 17?
15,
15?
8. And now you can buy a 30-year loan for 3.8%. And we were paying 15.8%. And that was another thing that the guy, we rented the house to start with from a guy that got fired at OU football and went to Akron University football. And so one day he calls and says, I want to buy a house up here, so I need to sell the one in Athens. I said, you got to be out of your mind. You know, interest rate is 15+%. Now my wife says we got to have a house here in Akron. We got to buy a house, so we got to sell the one in Athens. Well, there we were. We had been there 4 or 5 months, was it? And now suddenly this guy wants to sell this house. Either we got to find another house to rent and go through all the moving bullshit, or buy the house. And at that, you know, we just started and everything, and it just seemed easier to stay there and buy the house than it was to get out and go find something else to rent. It was a disaster. So, but
Now, during that time, there was also something happened. You two had been together since 1972, and obviously you've been used to regular visits from Sloan and I. Weekends, vacations, mini trips, things like that. Christmases,
New Year's, Thanksgiving.
all that. You know, we still have plenty of great pictures of those things. But somebody decided at the age of 15 that he was going to.
14.
Well, I turned 15 that summer.
Okay.
To
Change residence.
change residences, and do you have any thoughts about, or how did you make the decision to allow me to do that?
Discussion, I guess, on that.
Yep.
We sat down and talked about it.
We decided though we wanted custody because we didn't want you in control or
Right.
going back and forth. We told you
I was told that up front.
right.
Yeah.
You had to stay for the whole school year, and then if you
Yeah.
wanted to return, we'd change the custody back.
That's right. We laid down a
So
little bit of a contract
right.
with you that you wouldn't come and stay for 3 months and said, I'm sick and tired of these
Right.
asses. They make life too hard here. You know, I'm going to go back to Columbus. So you have to stay for the whole year, school year. And if you decided then if you want to go back to Columbus, then that was part of the contract.
Right.
You keep going. Or you,
Wow.
I'm kind of keeping a chronological order, but
You can jump around if you...
we can jump around a little bit.
Yeah, you can go back or forward.
but-
Or,
Right at this point, you ended up deciding to move
To where?
to California.
to
Oh,
California. How'd you feel about that, Nancy?
She
I didn't want to go.
She wanted to go to Cincinnati.
I wanted to. My dad. I was expecting to go to Cincinnati and take care of my dad, and my dad chose to die. So,
But
your
you
dad.
you were ready to take over
Yeah, I wanted to move in.
Maggie and Joe's house,
Right.
and we moved to Cincinnati.
I wanted a couple years to lick my wounds. And Dad said, no, I want to go to California. Right?
And when you got there, how'd you feel about that?
Well, he got there first. He left
Right.
in March.
Yeah,
I liked it. But I still think it would have been good for me to stay a few months in Cincinnati.
yeah. Well, you had lost your mom and your dad both.
That's right.
in a short time frame.
And you lost your business, so it was a lot of loss.
Yeah,
So
But things did change in California for both of you.
they did. Ow.
Well, I think you rebuilt pretty quick and pretty well, and I think it was pretty impressive that what was it, in 10 years you completely pretty much rebuilt everything.
we
Yeah,
did.
we had we didn't own our home, but we were buying our home.
Yeah.
And we had 3 rentals
Yeah.
that we were buying.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of our own work together.
Yeah.
You know, after work, we worked on the rentals, and it worked out pretty good.
And I used to work psychiatric crisis at night. I'd be on call. So one night I was traveling around the county, San Joaquin County, by myself, and I ran out of gas at 3 a.m.
3
I was
o'clock in
only
the
3
morning.
miles away from the house. So I called Dad, and Dad came cussing.
On Pacific Avenue,
Yeah.
right where that big main north-south
Mhm.
street.
I
Which-
pulled in under the lights in the shopping center.
So I went out to the shed and got the gas can. And the neat thing was I'd only had that bag phone for about 3 or 4 months. And I said, take this bag phone with you when you're doing this night stuff, just in case, you know, you need to call somebody. And she had that bag phone in the car, and she dialed up, said, come help me, I'm out of gas sitting here and I'm scared to death because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and
You don't want to be
There were
walking that
some-
part of Stockton at 3 a.m.
you know, some strange people in Stockton that might take advantage of somebody. So thank God for that bag phone. And it was, you know, that time it was $175, and we got it from some place in Cincinnati. Had the best price on the bag phone. So we
You still have it.
still got it, saving it for whoever wants it.
How
For
does
the
it work?
apocalypse.
Huh?
For the apocalypse. When
Yeah,
there's only
something like that.
one phone left on the face of the earth. It will be yours.
Would that thing still work, Matt?
I don't know.
I don't know either, if
We'll
it
find
still
out
work or
sometime.
not. But, you know, it was in a box about that long and that high and that wide. And it was this giant phone. Had a big battery in it. You could talk along with, the little ones are what, megawatts, and that was 3 full watts of power, so it would hit a cell tower that was 50 miles away.
Then came time to head to Arizona, where we're sitting right now. And now, this is something that I really don't know. I just remembered that you moved here mostly for Grandma. But that's
Grandpa
pretty
passed
much all
away.
I know. So how did that discussion go between the two of you, and how did you make the decision to move to Phoenix from Stockton?
Well, I had my heart attack
In 94.
on Memorial Day of 94. And so that was kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, you know, Dad's gone, Mom's 90-something. No, she was still in her 80s. So.
Still in our 80s, I think.
Yeah, and I said, you know, she's probably going to need some help. And I don't know how long I'm going to be around. Because there I was, just 59, just going on 60, and had that giant heart attack. And I said, you know, maybe it would be something to do. And Nan started, she didn't think she could leave because of her retirement with San Joaquin County. And then she found out she could.
Yeah, I only needed 10 years to be vested. So
Did you have
I had 10
something
years.
with the VA before we moved?
Yeah, I was talking to I called the VA and said I wanted to see what the VA looked like and a tour and stuff like that. I didn't mention anything about a job, but that was my only intention.
When we were down here visiting.
Yeah, and I kept in contact with the, not the head of the social work department, but the assistant head. And a year later, he called and said, I finally got a position for you. So,
That's when we decided, well,
yep.
she definitely had a job and had really good health care and additional retirement, so, you know,
Here we
if that's
go.
what you want to do, I guess we'll do it. And we got here, and Nance kept wondering why I didn't go to work.
Well, you did. You just didn't get paid for it.
I did all the renovation of the house. I was busier than a one-armed paper hanger, shopping for everything the cheapest I could buy it, and doing redoing the whole kitchen from one end to the other, and
And
bathrooms and the golf cart storage and you name it, I did it there.
And you redid the homeowners.
Well, and then I decided, you know, living in Sun City is a pretty nice place, and you know, I guess maybe I can give back to Sun City, so I got elected to the Sun City homeowners, and 3 years there, and then I decided I could do some more by running for the rec centers of Sun City, so I ran for the rec centers and had 2 years of president of the rec centers, and so I had 7 years of giving back to the community,
Right.
volunteering for free. But I enjoyed it.
But I did
and
decide he needed a cook if I was going to work.
Huh?
You needed a cook if I
Yeah,
was going to
yeah,
work.
we came to that agreement. If she's working, I'm cooking. So,
A deal I'd take any day.
yeah. But I enjoyed my volunteer work.
Yep, you were good.
It was good.
And you went through a few houses here, or was it just one?
Just one.
I know you had a rental.
Well, that was in Youngtown.
We bought that for $22,000.
Yeah, I remember I saw it once.
Sold it for, or the guy sold it for 40 something.
46. There was a renter there, and the guy next door he was a good guy, and he called up one Saturday and said, "Hey, Jerry, I think your tenants are gone. They were loading up their camper last night till midnight,
Yeah.
and I think your tenants are gone." So we go over there Saturday afternoon, and, you know, it's gone. They hadn't destroyed anything. It wasn't, you know, it just needed detailed cleaning up and everything. So we cleaned it up and said, "You know what?" I said, "I think I'll put a sign out there for rent or for sale." So I made up this sign by hand, for sale or for rent, and put it out there Saturday night after we were done cleaning. Sunday morning I had 3 calls. People wanted to buy it. And I said, "Oh, you know, we paid $22 for it, so I'll put a good price on it. If somebody will give us enough money, we'll sell it." The son of a bitch decided to buy it at $46,000. So I couldn't say no. And then the neat thing was that he wanted us to finance it for him. He gave us $20,000 down, cash down payment, goes in the bank. And then we financed $26,000. So he was paying us, I think, 8.5%. He was paying us like $400 a month. And, you know, for 15 years, we were going to get a nice extra check. Well, 2 years later, his mother got ill in Missouri. So he had to sell the house and leave, and we lost that deal. But, you know, when you finance somebody like that, if they stop paying you,
You get to
you
keep,
keep
it,
the
wasn't
20 grand that he gave you.
it? In the house.
That's yours, and you get the house back. So it's the best deal in the world, the way to sell a house that was dying and going to heaven. So when the house sold, then we got another $26,000. So we got all of our money, but I'd like to have it coming for the next 15 years would have been nice,
Yeah.
you know.
So did that end up now? How did you end up in this house?
Well, we had the other house on the golf course.
Right.
Augusta. And the freeway was out. The freeway went from Northern, which is 2 miles down, 3 miles down, and to 75th Avenue. And you know where 99th is. So the only thing on there was local traffic. There was no freeway traffic. And so suddenly they're building 101 that goes from I-17 to I-10, which means all these people going west are going to go on that road instead of going to downtown and out. And then everybody going here and there in town will use that rather than going on surface streets. So I said, Nance, we're going to have to move one of these days. And, you know, we got into weather like this where you open up the bedroom door to the golf course, but you could hear this traffic roaring down 101. So we decided it was time to leave. And then we started looking for a house. We knew, you know, you knew the models that Del Webb built in Sun City. And there were like 5 models that we liked to floor plan. And we wanted to be on a golf course, and we wanted to watch the sunset over the White Tank Mountain. So we probably looked at 150 houses,
At least.
probably 150 houses. And one day I drove down the street, and I saw there's a sign on this house. So I stopped and I got out and walked around and looked and said, you know, this is what we want. This is this model, and it's on the Lakes West Golf Course. It's away from the tee, so you won't have golf balls in your yard all the time. And you can look out, and there's the sunset over the White Tank Mountain. So I came and called the realtor that we were involved with. He was on my committee at the Homeowners Association, and I said, we want to put an offer in on this house. Okay. So we came over and we wrote up an offer, and he comes back and says, this was on Thursday probably? I think on a Thursday. He says, we can't get in to see it till, we wanted to see it. We called him to give us a showing. And he says, you can't get in to see it till Saturday. I said, okay, come over, we're gonna write an offer subject to inspection. I didn't want anybody to get in front of us. We'd been looking too hard, too long for the house we wanted. So we wrote an offer subject to inspection. And it was on a Friday. And guess what? We got in to see it at 9 o'clock the next morning when they had an offer subject to inspection. Then it was more easy for them
to allow you to come through?
Yeah. So they allowed us to come through, and we came up with a couple things on the final inspection, and we ended up here.
But what was good too is they were moving into assisted living and not happily. And
they were waiting
they
for
were
a 2-bedroom.
waiting for a 2-bedroom over there, and we hadn't sold our house yet, so we didn't mind waiting. This lady realtor that had this listed named Nancy Deutsch. Said that we were eager to get in and they needed to close. She lied.
She pushed these, and they were in their 80s, and she pushed them saying, you know, the Swintex were really anxious to get. We weren't anxious to get in. We hadn't sold our house yet, and what we wanted to do was stay in our house and have this house vacant. And then we brought the painter in and we took out all the popcorn ceilings and everything painted from stem to stern with not a speck of furniture or anything in the house. Made it so much easier.
Yeah.
But she was such a awful woman to treat those people that way.
Yeah.
So they ended up taking a 1-bedroom condo unit when they wanted a 2 because she pushed them out of here.
Right.
And, you know, we were fine.
How long have you been here?
2000,
Was it
September 11th of 2000.
2000?
Well, that's when we bought it.
Yeah, we bought it September 11th, 2000.
Yeah, we bought it September. We moved in the end of November. So we had it.
What are some of your special memories that you have? A few of.
We've been around the block a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
In 37 years.
Yeah.
We didn't get mired down in one place. But you guys had some fun coming to California and coming to Arizona, and it worked out good. We were here so you could get here.
Yes.
Better than Delaware.
Yeah. No
And the
kidding.
snow.
Although sometimes she wishes she were in a cooler climate.
There's days that
Right.
you would wish for something better, but we managed for a long time to get away for a week in the summer
Yeah. Not
till
anymore.
like this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the best thing is you get away from here for a week or 10 days into a cooler temperature and you come back, and it was like in Stockton, January, February, the Thule fog would come in and it'd hang between the coastal mountains and the Sierras, just covered. Valleys 300 miles long and 100 miles wide, and it just lay in there. And the high temperature for the day was 43 and the low temperature was 42. Nothing got out and nothing came in. It was just a little, you could see the gray clouds instead of a black sky. During the day you knew it was daytime because the clouds were gray instead of black. And it was really amazing how uptight people would get, because it could last for 2 weeks. And people would get real edgy and uptight, and Nance and I'd get in the car and we'd go over the Altamont and get into Livermore, and the sun was shining, and you go to the shopping center and you come home and you feel like a new person. Or you could go up to Lake Tahoe and get up above the Thule fog, and the sun was shining, and people would just escape out of there on a weekend and change your whole attitude.
That's true.
It was weird. It's hard to believe that it could be that depressing, just being that. But that was like Thule, Greenland. When we got there, we got there in March, so we were in that mid-time where you had daylight and darkness. In December, it's 24 hours a day. There's no sunshine. Never see, the moon goes around like this. In the summer, July, the sun goes around like this. There's never any darkness. It never goes dark. And we lived in these barracks that were like a refrigerator, and you lived inside the refrigerator instead of outside the refrigerator, because you could keep it warm. The doors were that thick,
Wow.
just the doors, and there were 32 rooms, and we had a window about that wide and that high, and there were only 31 shades. So every day there was a struggle to hang on to your shade, because everybody was trying to have a shade so they could pull it down so you could block out the sun, because, at 1 o'clock in the morning, the sun's still out there. And it doesn't feel like it's time to go to bed
Yeah.
when the sun is still out there. What?
Turn your head that way.
So that was a fun thing at Thule, keeping track of it. Of hiding your shade when you had to leave the room and go to work. Because people were working different schedules. Their planes flying at midnight and your plane's flying at 10 in the morning. So you know, you gotta leave your room and he's still in the barracks, so he'd have to, you know, he'd go around and rifle through the rooms trying to find the shade so he could have it when he got back in and it was still daylight.
Well, you've been together for 37 years. Are there any like mutual, you know, couples often have a song or they have a movie or they have a restaurant or they have something in common that they both really enjoy. Is there one, two, or even more things that you can think of that the both of you really enjoy doing together? And
We'd like to
That's one
watch.
of my questions.
We'd like to watch Fox News.
really,
He
I
never,
like
he
Megan
never
Kelly
really
and Brett
did.
Baer.
Yeah, that's her favorites. But
I could do without the rest.
we really had the most fun traveling when we were in California.
True.
But Stockton was not a great town to live in, but it was a great town to explore from. And, you know, you could, you know, we went down to L.A., see Betty, you know.
San Diego.
We went down to see San Diego. We had never seen San Diego. All of the Big Sur along the coastal highway, Carmel, Monterey,
What about the place
Santa
with the
Cruz.
waterfalls over here? What's the name of that?
Yosemite, and San Francisco, and Sausalito on the other side, Napa, Vallejo, Mendocino,
Tahoe.
Reno, and Tahoe. There were so many places you could
Yeah.
make a day trip, or you know, stay over on a Saturday night and come back on Sunday. There were just so many neat places to see that you don't have here. You know, you can go to Tucson, but Tucson looks like a small Phoenix.
Or you can go to Prescott or Sedona. Or
Yeah,
you
you
can
know.
go to LA.
Have you've been to Sedona. We have your picture along Oak
They
Creek
both
Canyon.
They've both been
yeah, I've been once or twice.
there. Twice. Maybe.
When we came back from Denver a couple of years ago when we went to the Porsche convention, coming down from Denver, I said, let's take Oak Creek Highway 89 from Flagstaff to Sedona. And that was one of the prettiest drives. It was all great big pine trees, and it was cool, and there was a little bit of mist, and it smelled so good. The pine trees, that was one of the neatest drives around. That it was really, really neat. That we hadn't done before.
True, and I never need to go back to Colorado. Them there mountains are too high.
Yeah. I think Sloan has some questions she want to
Well,
ask.
you've asked a lot of them already.
Well,
Is that tape still going?
Yeah.
we have 10 minutes left. Speak up.
Okay. Your faith, is it strong? Do you... I mean, I know you both went to Catholic schools.
She went
I went to
16 years.
of
Yeah.
Catholic
not
That's
12,
right.
she went 16.
Right.
I think even before I met your dad, the Catholic faith wasn't holding for me what it used to hold for me. And
But I think we both still have a strong belief in God.
right,
You know,
And
we
being-
don't,
good to the earth and good to others
Yeah.
and ourselves.
You are good to others.
my cousin Cleet was doing something the other day, and we were talking, and we were talking about political issues and the condom issue and that kind of, and he says, you know, I go to church every Sunday. I go, good Catholic, and I go to church every Sunday, and you know, I didn't say anything, but I said, you know, his idea of faith is going to church on Sunday. You know, going to church on Sunday is not faith. You know, that can be as phony as a friggin' day is long.
Absolutely.
There are some of the phoniest people that are the biggest churchgoers going, and they'll steal from their grandmother if they can. You know, and that doesn't, just because you go to church on Sunday, doesn't make you a good person.
Right.
It's kind of like Father Jack told us. What did Father Jack
I
tell
don't
us?
know.
He told us that, we don't have to be married in the church. That if we're good people and we love each other
And we're faithful to each other.
and we're faithful to each other, we're carving a
We're good in God's eyes.
nice clean path to heaven.
Right.
You guys are wonderful people, and I've been subject to knowing what you can do for others, and you've done a lot for me.
But that was one of the neatest things coming from a priest to say, look, you don't have to do all this happy horse hockey. You already did it for 16 years and you did it for 12. We know you know who God is and who Jesus Christ is. And, if you lead a good life and love each other and do good for others, then you're on your way. You're home free.
Amen. What is some of the most significant encounters you've had with life?
21.5% interest.
That's a good one. Very relevant.
How about you?
I think having lost my parents and Dad losing his business was a lot to swallow.
We're pretty significant, yeah.
Yeah.
How about with me?
You're no problem.
Not as much as
You're
I
a
want.
challenge, but you're no problem.
You're
How
part of our path.
Yes.
Path or past?
Path. Our path to heaven.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
You've earned your wings with me. And with Matt as well.
That remains to be seen in the next few months, maybe.
I guess we were really disappointed when he took Mary over us when we moved to California. Huh?
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
I wish
Maybe
he would
I
have moved.
was.
I wish he would have moved to California for a while, and then if he still would have married, he could go back and marry her.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Oh no, not going to California. It was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. I think my life would have turned out completely different if I would have went.
I think quite possibly.
Much for the better.
I think that sometimes too, if I would have lived with you guys, I would have turned out a little better. Because Mom wasn't real strict at all, as you know.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to move down there. And I don't know if you both know this, but I got a good talking to by one of my friends who lived with just his father. And, when the two of us would get into trouble, he'd get grounded for a month and I'd get grounded for 4 hours or not grounded at all.
Yeah.
And and when I would come visit you guys on the weekends, I was washing cars for $1 a piece. I was making money. I was being disciplined. Well,
you had Nestor for,
Well, I didn't even
and
know them
Jackie.
very much at the time. I wasn't in that circle at the time.
Yeah.
It was more of a...
Well, after you moved there, yeah. Then you were.
And even to this day, the guy's name was Todd Johnston, and his dad was kind of the person who made me see, look, this guy's steering him in the right direction. if I stay with my mother, I might end up in jail one of these days because I was getting away with everything. I mean, I didn't go to school on Friday. That was just a way of life. And I think I missed 2 or 3 days of school total because I loved school when I moved down here.
Out here?
And I loved
Out
being
here?
able,
You mean Athens?
I'm sorry, in Athens.
Yeah.
And I loved being able to take the school bus to work and then work until 8 o'clock and be a teenager
home
with
with
money, and then come home with you.
Yeah.
It couldn't have worked out better. But yeah, not going to California was a huge
He
mistake.
used to get pretty pissed off when she sat down with him with homework.
Ugh.
And he wasn't ready to do homework. And Nancy was not ready to let him off the hook for homework.
What does that mean?
2 minutes.
Oh,
Right, Nance?
yep.
You did.
But he learned how to learn academically. Knew you
And
had it.
you had the
I knew you had it.
had about 3 really
Do
good
it.
teachers in high school too
Uh-huh.
that you really liked and
You had
you
one
really
that was
studied with.
outstanding.
Remember when
The stock
He and I
market
we
lady.
did the penny stocks? They had a project in civics course, and each one had $1,500 to invest in stock, and it went on for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And to see who could make the most money on the top of their investment. And he and I sat down with the Sunday paper and went through these penny stocks. You could buy these stocks for a nickel or 10 cents or 12 cents. And we went through and bought about 20 of them. And we watched what they'd done in the past. We thought, guess who won the contest? He won the contest. We made more money out of those penny
He
stocks.
made it.
And these,
He made it.
Yeah, they did. And the other guys were buying AT&T and IBM and all these fancy names, and he bought these names you never heard of, and he ended up making more money than anybody else in the class. So he had a good time with that. Yeah.